Hello, and welcome to this special first episode of Almost Cult Classics, the podcast. My name is Joe Ramoni, and if you're joining this podcast through my YouTube channel over at Hats Off Entertainment, thank you so much for supporting my work there and for checking out this new expansion of that channel. Myself and my co-host, Mr. Ryan Lancello, can't wait to talk about more of your Almost Cult Classics suggestions, which you can send our way at almostcultclassics.com. Now, we are also on Patreon, which you can find us at patreon.com/hatsoffentertainment. We have launched a new Patreon producer tier, where if you support that tier, you'll get not only exclusive early access to episodes, we're also going to do a ton of bonus content just for our supporters on Patreon. So please consider supporting us there, again, at patreon.com/hatsoffentertainment. And lastly, I just want to say that this podcast has been a learning experience for both of us. We both come from a film background, so learning how to perfect this audio-only format has been a learning experience, and we are going to work tirelessly to better ourselves to make this podcast sound as best as it can possibly be. So please pardon any audio inconsistencies in this first episode. It was kind of a trial run for us where we were testing everything out, and we're definitely going to work at fixing any issues you notice in this first episode. That being said, we can't wait to talk about Super Mario Bros. The movie, and let's just get into it. This is Almost Cult Classics, the podcast. My name is Joe Ramoni. I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Lancello. Ryan?
Howdy. How's everyone doing out there in Radio Land?
That's what this is.
Is that what this is?
Yes.
All right.
So, I need to preface this by saying you had not seen this movie.
I mean, what? It came out in 93, right?
93.
I watched it for the first time a week ago.
Okay. So, I am the same way. Not that long. I did not see this movie when it came out. I didn't see it until years later. I discovered it at the video rental store on like the lower shelves. And my mind was blown that there was a Super Mario Brothers movie because I played the games. I loved the games. I had never heard about this movie. So I made my parents rent it and took it home, watched it, and loved it. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
And
how,
I watched.
How old were you when you first watched it?
I would say I was about 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had not. I watched it sporadically throughout the years. I had not seen it in about 15 years. So I, like you, watched it a week ago, and there are parts of it that holds up. There are parts that I was really bored, which is what I didn't remember about it from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange movie.
Yeah, it is kind of strange.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the problems with it is, well, here's the other thing too. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
But over the years, and I think that's going to be the one thing that's weird about some of these movies we do is that they're older, so they've had time to build up a reputation. You know, fair or not.
Right.
Another thing I'm going to tell everyone: don't listen to critics. Very rarely listen to critics. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone.
Don't listen to us.
Watch this stuff.
Yeah.
Watch it yourself. Form your own opinion. The critics suck. They're only in it for themselves. They're not creators. Anyway, with that aside, things build up a reputation over time. So I always heard this movie was like an enormous piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like I heard this was the worst movie.
It has a reputation of not just being bad, but being one of the worst movies ever made.
Which is, when you watch it, it's kind of strange because you're like, oh, this movie's, it's not good.
Yeah.
But it's not terrible.
Well, so you, let me get into this. You as a kid, you weren't a gamer.
No, I was. I mean, I grew up with like literally NES though, like Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, so your knowledge of
I was a gamer, but I'm not a gamer.
Well, so your knowledge of Super Mario Brothers is very basic, right? If that.
I mean, I know enough.
So, what do you know about Super Mario Brothers?
The game?
Yeah.
I played them all.
Well, but like, if you had to just pick elements and rattle them off.
Plumbers.
Yeah.
Maybe Italian.
Yeah.
Bowser.
Yeah.
The characters, the game.
So, if you were a studio executive that had a child in the 90s that just knew what this was, didn't understand it, but knew it contained plumbers who were Italian and maybe dinosaurs, this movie is a representation of that.
Right. Like, okay, so here's the one thing I found kind of interesting about it is that, you play the first Mario on NES, right? Super Mario Bros., first one. Nothing to it. There's no story, really.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. So you're left with a weird thing where, okay, you almost have a blank slate. You can make this world whatever you want. And I think this is where the movie got into trouble. It was an asset and a... I'm snapping my fingers. What's the opposite of asset? Detriment? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it went both ways.
The problem was they couldn't win with this because the fact that there was no story means that everyone that played the game invented their own backstory. So when they finally came time to go, this is the story we're going to tell with Super Mario Brothers, I'd say almost everyone went, well, this isn't what I had in my head.
Well, so here's where the story also, I don't know if you knew this or did research this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the games themselves very quickly. So Mario actually comes from Donkey Kong. I don't know if you knew that.
Sure.
1981 that comes out. Based loosely on Popeye. It's rumored they were trying to develop a Popeye game, and Bluto was going to be the Donkey Kong. Popeye would be trying to rescue Olive Oyl. So they kind of used those character types to build the game. Mario Brothers is an arcade game that comes out in 1983 in which two plumbers go into the sewers of New York. So that was something I didn't know. I didn't know that there were ties with Mario to New York. I thought that was something this movie did because it's very New York.
You know what else is weird? In the video game, they're actually both union plumbers, too.
Oh, really? That's the detail I missed. But I didn't know that. I didn't know they were from New York. This movie's very New York heavy. So Super Mario or Mario Brothers is an arcade game in 83. 85, Super Mario Brothers comes out. That's the console version that we all know that you just talked about.
Sure.
That one is not really about New York. It's the Mushroom Kingdom. There's no backstory. Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3 both come out in 1988, I believe. And again, they're not really that heavy on plot. There is a Super Mario World in 1990, and that's kind of what drove this movie because they're in some place called Dinosaur Land, and that leads into the Super Mario Brothers Super Show in 1989.
Oh, was that the Saturday morning one?
This is the Saturday morning cartoon. Lou Albano, Captain Lou Albano, and Danny Wells play Mario and Luigi. And I don't know if you've ever seen this.
I've seen clips.
But they play who you would expect the Mario Brothers to be in live-action form. It's comically Italian. There's Italian accents, big mustaches, overalls.
It's incredible. It's incredible. We're just a punchline.
Yeah, you and I are both Italian.
Our people are a punchline.
But that is what I would expect a live-action Mario Brothers to look like.
Okay.
And that is 89. So when you look at this movie, it's almost like the studio looked at what was done with the Super Mario Brothers Super Show and said, we don't want to do this.
Yeah, I don't think was that show successful?
They were in a season, but I mean, they wanted to divorce themselves from that concept of it's animated and for kids.
Sure.
It was like, do you remember when I was thinking of when Star Trek came out in 2009? There was a tagline that said, "It's not your father's Star Trek," and that like ruffled, it ruffled some feathers because it's bad and like I feel like the studio was like, "This isn't your older brother's Super Mario Brothers." Like they wanted to do this like, new version of it that was dark and gritty.
It's funny. I mean, you probably know more about this than me, but I think a lot of the early versions of the scripts were just it was Ghostbusters was kind of the they wanted to make it like a dark comical thing.
They wanted to go like Princess Bride, Ghostbusters. I read that like a lot of the early scripts were Wizard of Oz.
Last Tango in Paris.
Yes, that was a big influence. But they wanted to go in a way that was like family friendly and kind of light and colorful. And it's so weird because this movie ends up being nothing like that.
Hey, look. It once again, it doesn't, and I think it suffers from the expectation, which was just it's like amorphous.
Yeah.
Like everyone thinks they know what they want to see with Mario Brothers until someone gives it to them, and it's not right. Which, like, what are you going to do? There was no story to begin with. It's a plumber in pipes fighting Goombas. Like, not much story there. But when it comes to, I mean, like, it's dark, but it's light.
I don't think it's any darker than like Batman or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it's very similar to those.
Well, that and like, I mean, I don't know how much you could say about the 80s, but the 90s had a lot of, maybe like the later 80s, a lot of weird kids movies had a little dark, had a little edge to them.
Yeah.
Where it was, I remember, how many movies from that era, like that spooked me as a kid. It's like everyone always talks about, is it Ernest Goes to Halloween? What is he?
Ernest Scared Stupid.
Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yeah, no, it's a dark movie. It's around this time.
I was never a big Ernest fan, but I think because I saw that one like early, and those goddamn trolls gave me the creeps.
Yeah, and that's like, this movie has kind of some terrifying imagery. And whether that is supposed to be like
I don't like. It's just a very like mismatch of different kind of tonally and themes that kind of come together. But like you're saying, I mean, it has elements from the game. It has those bare basic elements from the game.
If I had to, like I said, I saw it for the first time a couple days ago. If I had to say, does this movie do a good job of representing what's in, the Mario Brothers games or whatever?
Yeah,
kind of does.
It does.
It does. It sets up. Look, you got Dino Hatton or whatever, surrounded by desert,
right?
With all that's kind of was the game. Like they're in pipes.
Yeah, I mean, so again, like then you have like in the games, the Goombas are the mushroom characters, and this game, the movie is like fungus rules it's a very they took some things and ran away with them.
It's weird. You always wonder how much coke was being done in this era because it's like you said, tonally all over the place. Because it's so funny. Like I can't get over. It's just killing me too. I've had this stupid Alan Silvestri score in my head for days. Like I'm in the shower and I'm
yeah.
Yeah, God,
and it's so weird that they didn't take the actual Mario Brothers theme song and kind of orchestrate that a little bit.
It's funny that I kind of forget this because I couldn't believe it was happening. This movie, do you remember the intro?
Of course.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, I mean, so the first second is great. It's the classic theme song. Yup, and then someone speaks. And that's where the movie takes a turn.
I didn't realize, I'm watching the credits at the end. I'm like, where the hell was Dan Castellaneta in this movie? He does that original.
Does the narrator.
And it was 65 million years ago.
It is so comically New York.
Well, but not only that, what is the deal with that animation?
Yeah.
Come on.
I think what they were trying to do was show like, oh, it's like a video game. But it doesn't look anything like a video game. It just looks like bad, like...
It's weird. Come on, man.
Yeah.
They couldn't get something a little bit better than that. That strikes me as something where there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and basically they got to a point like, we got to get this fucking movie out. Like, just throw the thing in front of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a minute long. You could tell that thing is cut down.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a longer prologue, and I think they just did that really quickly and just here's what's happening when we begin the movie.
Yeah.
And
Dan Castellaneta does the opening narration of this. He's Homer Simpson. So. Yeah.
But why him?
Why? He did a lot of voice work.
No, I understand that, but to the relevance of the plot, like why wasn't it like
the
Daisy
narrator,
or someone like that? Is
a lot of strange choices with this one. I'll tell you what, everyone's going to praise this movie for one thing, and it's like design, the character design, set design's pretty good, but like you brought up the Goombas.
Yeah,
you can't do the ones in the video game.
No,
you can't. There's no.
No,
good,
I get what they did.
No good visual representation with that. So whoever came up with that nailed it. Like that's like iconic. That's the movie is worth. It what's the word? It affirms its own existence with some good characters.
Yeah, well, when I teased we were doing this movie, I tweeted the image of the Goomba and like that. People love that because I think it's such an iconic image from this movie. Is that the character? And so, did you happen to read like the casting stuff going on?
Maybe somewhat.
So, from what I read, and I don't know how, based in reality this is, it was Danny DeVito was originally, I think, in the lead to play Mario. It had also, I think, Dustin Hoffman I read was interested only because his kids liked the game.
Makes sense.
And Tom Hanks was in the running for Luigi, but Turner and Hooch had just come out and flopped. And the studio didn't think he'd be a bankable lead. But from what I read, it seemed like in all the scripts that they did, the idea that Luigi was going to be the younger romantic lead was a central part of all the versions of the script that it went through. That started at the beginning, where Mario was kind of the older, wise kind of older brother. But in terms of like who you could possibly cast in this role, I mean, you really don't have that many options. And Bob Hoskins, it's a weird one to come at.
Cast an Italian.
Well, apparently they want to do it with DeVito, and I feel like they may have gone to Pesci, who tossed the script in the trash if he was offered it. Although he did a lot of like...
Pesci was not... It would not be beneath him. They're all actors. Nothing's beneath an actor. They're lying if they say they do. That's their job.
But, I mean, I'm wondering how they arrived at the actors they arrived at, because Bob Hoskins... He's trying for parts of it, and other parts he kind of gives up.
Well, once again, it's just thin. There's not much going on.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because it's like you got one thing I noticed with this movie is I'm like, wow, they like restrained Leguizamo. He's not he's not the pest Leguizamo. If you've ever seen The Pest, I dare anyone, if you can get through the intro to The Pest, maybe you can watch that movie.
Someone sent us an email about it.
I don't know, man. That movie, that's another one. It's like, man, there was that era in the 90s where it's just like, that must have been great Coke.
Well,
because it's just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone talked anyone down from it. I think that...
I don't know. I'm a little older than Joe by just a few years, but I remember Leguizamo was like kind of big.
That skips my memory.
I remember him like being hot at one point. Like he was in a lot of stuff.
I understand why he's in it. The two of them do not come off like brothers at all. They're two different accents coming into it. I mean, I do like how it is kind of funny. Like Luigi's got the Italian horn medallion. Yeah.
And, you know, Mario's
they tried.
Whatever.
But he could have had a mustache. I feel like if you're making a Mario Brothers movie, Luigi. I mean,
oh yeah, Luigi does have a mustache.
Yeah.
Joe's got two action figures from the movie in front of me, and Luigi kind of looks like a Puerto Rican John Cena, and Mario looks like Mario.
I do have two action figures, and it's a representation that they wanted this movie to be a huge success. So they put out merchandise, they put out comics, they put out toy lines, and it just didn't hit those marks.
Let me ask you something. You might know this. Is this the first video game adaptation?
I think it is. And someone will email us if that's not the case.
I would imagine, yeah.
I know there were... It's certainly been the last Nintendo movie, and I know now that Universal owns the film rights, and they're planning on doing some Image. The people that do the Despicable Me films are going to do something with Mario.
I'm trying to think. I'm so checked out, but I don't think there's any good video game adaptations. I guess I like Mortal Kombat just because it's not pretentious. It's just
you say that. I mean, it's weird. I think this year had the highest grossing video game adaptation film, Sonic. I think Sonic.
I forgot.
Already. That's what this year has been.
Look, guys, you're gonna learn this. I don't really like new movies. I don't really watch them. They bore me. I don't think they're well done. I think it's whatever. You're gonna hear a lot of this if you keep listening to this show.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if
Sonic
had been made in the '90s? Though it would have been like a crazy film.
I feel like
something like E.T.
I feel like they tried at one point, like at the height of his thing. But yeah, I mean, look, here's the big thing. It's the you couldn't do certain things back then because of no CGI, but that's what makes Super Mario Brothers to me more at least visually interesting than the Avengers. Like I'm sorry, bores me to tears to watch that. It's like watching nothing.
Yeah,
I know nothing's there. Like I watched Super Mario Bros. I'm like, Yoshi's there.
Yeah, they were on a set.
They made a Yoshi thing.
I mean that
that's to me, to know something's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Call me old fashioned, but I feel like I'm watching something.
Yeah, I mean that whole dark Manhattan street set is pretty intricate and it's pretty interesting.
You know what's funny? I looked into it because I'm watching it and I'm thinking there's the set on the street where all the cars are going around with the electric thing, which it's kind of odd choice to make.
An odd choice.
Why are we? But whatever. I'm like, is this the same set they used for if you look at a couple other movies, there's Waterworld has a thing where they're driving around this weird street thing.
Oh, really?
Total Recall. What was the other one? Damn it. I'm like, oh, is this? I'm like, I'm seeing this set a lot. Apparently not. Apparently they bought some old concrete factory in North Carolina and built the set there.
So we talked a little bit about the opening there with that weird narration and opening.
Honestly, man, I don't know how that got through.
Yeah.
It's so...
Well, the whole opening, the whole prologue with the egg at the nuns.
Oh, right,
and
that whole thing.
It's...
You know what else threw me off, too? It's not Peach.
Well, Peach I don't think comes into later on.
But
could be
Daisy.
wrong.
It's Princess Daisy in the movie.
That's the original.
But it's always Peach.
Well, later on, I think...
Did they call her Daisy in the original game?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. Daisy's mother is exiled or escapes from, this parallel universe and delivers an egg. That's her future daughter on the steps of a Catholic orphanage, I assume it is.
I assumed everything was Italian and Catholic in this movie.
Yeah. And we'll get to that dinner scene. It does not fail. It's very Italian. It's very New York. the nuns, for some reason, just don't tell anyone that an egg has been delivered to them
Well, I
that
think
hatches a human.
That was very secret. They had to keep it, under wraps.
I mean, they did. And we don't really hear about who raised Daisy or what happened, or it's just she's kind of knows that she came from somewhere. And then we're introduced to...
Wait, that's a good point.
Yeah, she never talks about where she came
never
from.
addresses that.
Never
does
addresses
she?
where she
and
came from.
Mario dances around Luigi at one point.
Yes.
He almost acts like he's not his brother. That Luigi was an orphan. Maybe I just missed something. I zoned out, but I'm like, he explains it at one point. It's the whole Mario brother thing.
Yeah. So from what I can understand, and it comes up throughout this movie, there's like Luigi has a reluctance, like almost to be a plumber, and Mario keeps like he has a bunch of lines about like always bring your tools, and he's very like enforcing the plumber mindset on Luigi. And apparently there's apparently a longer version of this movie somewhere, but that was a big plot point, was that Luigi had to accept being a plumber.
Oh wow!
And you can see it peppered in. I mean,
It's
there's
a
moments.
real ripping yarn there.
Yeah. Well, again, there's lines about always take your tools and come on, you have to be a plumber. I mean, he's like Luigi's kind of like zoned out and watching like tabloid television in the beginning, and it sets up like so easily like Luigi's gullible and it's very weird, the whole thing. And then we're introduced to two characters played by Fisher Stevens, and I have his name, Richard Edson.
Who I have to say, I was always bummed about Richard Edson because he got pigeonholed as like a goofy-looking guy. And of course, you're an actor, you want to work, so you're going to take the roles.
Kind of looks like Adam Driver.
He does look like a skinnier Adam Driver. The thing is, go watch Do the Right Thing. Richard Edson in that movie is phenomenal. He plays Mookie is Spike Lee in that movie. He plays like Mookie's buddy. They're both, they work in the pizza shop together. The guy's a good actor, and you will only see him.
He's in Ferris Bueller, right? He's the
guy that takes the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I knew him from. So
I think that may have been the first time I kind of saw him as a kid too.
I actually like the two of those characters in this movie.
They're good. Fisher Stevens, I think at the time was married to Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, really?
Little tidbit.
Is that true?
It is.
Oh, wow.
I don't think they're not married anymore.
I don't think. But it adds some much needed like energy to this movie, and like it's just they're fun characters. But they basically are like stalking Daisy, and that's kind of when Luigi sees her.
I do like how the plot in the movie is chicks are just getting snatched off the street of Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, that was the weird thing. I'm thinking so Daisy is on the run from two strange guys she doesn't know who they are, and decides to go with two strange guys who she doesn't know who they are. It's like,
good point.
What was there? So she goes with them in their truck, and I guess Luigi asks her to dinner, and Mario has a gal, and this is a character you would not see in the video games. Mario's girlfriend. I forget her name. Do you remember her name? Like Veronica or something like that?
Daniela, I don't know.
Danielle, I think it is. And they go to dinner, and it is probably the most Italian scene in this movie. They're not only are they shoveling spaghetti into their mouths, there's like Italian music playing in the background. It's screaming that they're Italian. It's just hammering it in.
And it's an Englishman and a Puerto Rican.
Yeah, it's not even Italian people.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
And then her and Luigi.
It's perfectly fine, by the way, people. I don't care.
Yeah, look,
I could care less. I really could. I just think it's funny. I always do.
The Scapelli brothers. That's another.
I want to get into Scapelli.
The Scapelli brothers.
Do you know who played Scapelli?
No.
I think it's Johnny Russo.
Oh, is it?
He plays. If you watch Godfather 1, he marries Connie. He marries the daughter.
Okay.
You spoiled guinea brat. He's the one smacking her around.
Okay. I didn't remember that.
Carlo plays Scapelli.
How about that? Man, they were really going for like low rent Italian.
Sure,
that was what they went for.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some stories, by the way.
As an actor,
well, just throughout. I've heard him on something else, and he has like got a lot of like really good Hollywood stories.
Anyone involved in this movie, I would love to talk to, and it's a shame because a good portion of the cast is dead.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins. He died
Bob
last
Hoskins
year?
and Dennis Hopper. I think they both
died last year.
Not last year. I mean, but
recently.
Like, within 5 years, I think. And yeah, I mean, so what happens is they stumble into this parallel dimension that's like in a cave, which is a very weird effect when like their faces are coming through this cave wall. I don't even know how you would describe what's going on.
Yeah.
And then Luigi takes a leap in after getting the meteorite chunk, and then Bob Hoskins does like a complete somersault into this rock wall, and the fever dream that follows of him like going into like it's like this weird like tie-dye like CGI. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I didn't look into it fully, but this movie pushed a few things forward technologically.
I'm sure it did.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
I think it's called Autodesk Flare. Did you read this at
No,
all?
I didn't.
It's some piece of, we'll say digital effect technology that was basically, this is the first movie it was used on, and it's kind of, it became an industry standard after that. Plus, you get into all the animatronic stuff.
Well, that was the thing I looked at too, is that this movie predates Jurassic Park by a month. Or so, or actually weeks, I think it even comes down to.
I think they were concurrently filming. I could be wrong, but Jurassic Park came out, what, 94?
No, 93. I think this is the end of May and Jurassic Park was early June of 93.
But yeah, I mean, I think Spielberg was sending people over to like be like, what are these guys doing over here?
They look good. They look good. The dinosaur effects work.
Look, all the practical effects I think work.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm so tired of CGI. I hate CGI, modern CGI, so very much that you know, a janky Yoshi robot, I'm like, that looks good. Like, I like that. And it looks good. It's not perfect.
Well, it doesn't represent what Yoshi is. I think that's what the problem people have with it. I think it's only in the movie to set up future events and to sell toys. I don't think it has any, he has no significance on the plot whatsoever.
But as a animatronic achievement,
yeah, really good.
It was good.
It was good.
I think once again, the Goomba, it's all good.
Well, as soon as they get to that parallel world, like it's
Dino Hatton.
It's immediately like they get the meteorite rock stolen off them by Big Bertha, who comes back, which is a really funny scene. But we'll get to. And then we find out that Daisy. I'm really unclear about what the exact motivations of Koopa are.
Well, I guess Koopa just wants to meld the worlds. He's tired of Dino Hatton.
He does, but he says something like, "I just want the people from our universe to like be able to roam free," and they are like.
The Koopa thing's very confused. Look, here's one thing: they first get to Dino Hatton. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but I am. But they get there, and there's vote for Koopa, elect Koopa, and it's like, who the fuck is he running against? It's King Koopa.
Yeah,
there's no election.
Yeah, there's no one.
And it's great too, because I mean, this is where people's brains go. This is why, you know.
Yeah.
You look at Star Wars. Look at the first 3 Star Wars movies, right?
Yeah.
People built so much lore over just those movies. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of things that fill in Boba Fett's backstory, all that bullshit. But it almost makes. I was like, well, maybe Koopa like runs mock elections so people think they're living in a democracy, but. None of this is in the movie. Absolutely none of this is in the movie.
So I did read. I mean, there is a longer version of this movie out there. There are scenes that got cut that will never see the light of day. One of those scenes is apparently Koopa going to Manhattan, looking around, seeing the Twin Towers, which we'll also get to, and inspiring his version of that. So, because, yeah, I mean, it really comes off strange to this parallel world. It's just like Manhattan. And there was scenes where he would visit Manhattan, see what it was, but again, so he needs the meteorite chunk, but why does he need Daisy then? It's just...
It's a stupid... The plot's idiot.
Yeah, there's definitely things that got cut that don't make any sense. And yeah,
Well, once again, I mean, and this is going to be an ongoing thing, how many hairs are you going to split on the Super Mario Brothers movie? You know what I mean? It's not Hamlet.
No,
it's you got to take a little bit of.
But I mean, again, the set design is incredible. It's very well done.
It's really good. I actually will say that, even though it's a product of its time. So many movies look like that.
Yeah.
But it did get there first in a lot of ways. So it's totally unfairly maligned. I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but
well, so essentially what happens is the Spike and Iggy, their names, they report to Koopa that plumbers have taken the meteorite chunk. He therefore puts out he wants all plumbers arrested.
Right, and you get Koopa coins or
Koopa coins and
coupons.
A cop finds the Mario Brothers, and because they're wearing tools, he just says, "Oh, you're plumbers," and throws them into a squad car along with Toad, who
was played by Mojo Nixon.
Yes, which is a great name.
Great name.
Great name.
I had to look him up. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Apparently, and this, I feel like I see this a lot with movies.
Yeah.
It's like, we want Tom Waits.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Everyone wants Tom Waits.
They want him in those weird character parts.
They love him for those things. And they got Mojo Nixon instead. I'd never heard of him. I looked him up. Psychobilly rocker. And psychobilly, rockabilly, that stuff was kind of bigger in the 90s.
Yeah.
Wish it would come back. I like it. But dude, Mojo Nixon's got some good songs. He's got one really dirty song called Tie My Pecker to My Leg. Real good stuff. And then he's got another song which I really appreciate, Don Henley Must Die. Don Henley's in the Eagles, for you people that
If
don't know.
everyone would go, you can listen to these songs. We're not sponsored by Mojo Nixon, but
No, they're funny songs. They're good. I like them.
so he's
I am
playing.
sponsored by Mojo Nixon.
Well, share the wealth. He is playing Toad, who I don't know if you know who Toad is, but in the video games, Toad is the little mushroom guy who wears like the colored spotted hat. So he looks a lot like that. He's very representative of who Toad is.
No. Oh, okay, you're being
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right. I looked away for a second. I didn't see your face.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think they just were like, what do we need in this movie? Oh, this Toad, we'll throw him in. I mean, he doesn't...
Well, look, once again, you're dealing with a pre-CGI era, right?
Yeah.
So, like, today, if they made this movie today, just be a CGI character, period. Like, it would be Toad. It would be the Toad He's got the stupid vest, the dumb head.
Yeah.
Same with Koopa. It's like you couldn't do Koopa. Or, I'm sorry,
Bowser is Koopa.
Bowser, wait. Who is Koopa then?
Koopa, so
Is
Bowser is king of the Koopas.
Oh, right,
And in
right,
this
right,
movie,
right.
they just kind of, use that
But
to
you
name the
couldn't
character.
do, like, a big dragon dinosaur with a shell.
Well, they do. I mean, towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, but they don't have the shell on the back, from what I remember. Like, you look at Bowser, you know what Bowser looks like.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that in the 90s.
No, and
It wouldn't look right. It would look. I mean, maybe you could. You could do like a little Shop of Horrors
but
type
then why
thing.
would, like the hair, like the weird hair, like
Once again, I'll actually stick up for them because you had to make some decision, and it's an interpretation of what it was.
yeah.
So
Don't you think though? Like I was watching this, and like Dennis Hopper, I feel like he did not think that. Like when they sat him down and were like, "All right, so we're going to do this to your hair," he was probably like, "What?"
I didn't read too many. I didn't really read too many interviews with him, but he's confused.
Yeah,
And I think Bob Hoskins.
they're
was
all confused.
They're all very confused as to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. When you're filming these kind of movies, you have scenes where it's like, okay, we're going to shoot you. We're going to film you shooting the fire gun, and you shoot that for 10 seconds, and then it all gets pieced together later.
Right.
It's kind of weird to do these things, and if you don't know why you're doing them or what you're doing, it comes across. They look confused a lot of times.
Yeah. So I read that like early on they offered it to Harold Ramis, who turned it down, and then it goes to a husband and wife directing team, Annabelle Jankel and Rocky Morton, who were primarily known for Max Headroom. I looked up their credentials. They had a couple films like before this movie. They haven't really done much since.
I think they did Genius of Love. If any Tom Tom Club fans are out there, they did the Genius of Love video.
They did a lot of
cool.
music videos. Yeah.
They were visual kind of artists or whatever.
From what I've read, it makes clear that there was obviously a disconnect between them and the cast. Something wasn't being misunderstood. I think the overall production was just nightmarish.
Look, if you're not the Coen brothers and you're a directing duo, you better be on the same page. Because I think one thing, it was one of the actors I was reading, they were just like, you got one saying one thing, one saying the other. You got you have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And
it's clear they're not, because there's so many things in this movie that are split and just weird choices. So as far as the plot goes, we meet Toad, played by Mojo Nixon, and I do like the scene where they go to the police station and Mario's trying to explain their name.
Dude, that's the best scene in the movie, because not only that, it's like you see a glimpse of what the movie could have been if they went full bore. Because they walk in and they're getting booked in the police station, right? Yeah. And there's that guy. What is his name? The cop.
The actor?
Yeah,
I don't know the actor's name.
He's in a lot of Christopher Guest movies. He's funny, very deadpan. But they walk up and he's at the big desk getting booked, and there's a woman in black latex with giant black latex boots massaging the heel into his shoulder. It's never commented on.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, great little things like that in this movie.
I'm like, that's the part. Like I'm like, what? This should be out throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, there should have been little things like that.
Great little moment. Like, that's what the hell's going on here.
Yeah.
It's all hilarious.
Yeah.
And also, okay, go on. There's a good Koopa joke that I have to comment on.
What's that?
So it's after they get booked, they're in jail, and they bring him down to Koopa. He's going to interrogate them or whatever, right? And he's for whatever reason he's pretending to be their lawyer, Larry Lazard, and he's from the law firm of Lazard, Condadactyl, and Cohen. So
I just threw that in there at the end.
Even in Dino Hatton, even in the Mushroom Kingdom, even in another dimension, there's a fine Jewish lawyer that will help defend you.
They made that joke. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's quick. It's like real quick.
so he comes in and he's pretending to be their lawyer. He's just trying to get to know them. And
he's trying to get to know them.
Well, I mean, he's trying to
get
get
the rock.
He wants the rock, and he takes them to be de-evolved.
Yes.
Which is, in essence, it is a machine that does it shrink your brain or enlarge your brain?
They didn't think this one through either. This is another one because he gets put in it.
Yeah.
And if you
nothing happens to him,
his eye changes.
Yeah. Did you happen to see too? Like during that sequence, there's like weird shit on the floor. Something got cut. Like you can see like all this like brown. It looks like vomit on the floor, and they're slipping in it.
Oh yeah, what the?
Something got cut.
Yeah, something got cut. It's also funny too when you think about it because what were their names? Iggy and what?
Spike.
They get thrown in there and they get
smarter.
They get smarter.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just do that?
Make all your minions smart.
Make everyone smart. Make yourself a genius. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it's weird that
obviously. Look, here's the other thing: splitting hairs on a kids movie, but come on, people, be consistent.
It's weird too. Like you go in, and your body somehow becomes larger.
Yeah.
Your head gets smaller.
Your head gets smaller. Your body gets larger.
And I think that's probably to hide the massive batteries that are powering the animatronic heads, probably.
Sure.
And you have to hide the human heads. Again, they look good.
Totally worked.
There's a few that are like more lizard head.
See, that's the other thing too. I like that you have your standard Goomba head, which is just like a little ball.
Yeah.
And then you have those, like you said, like the more lizard head ones. And I like the fact that they don't comment on that.
Yeah.
It makes you think, oh, there's
different breeds.
And that's the other thing too. Is everyone a reptile? They've all evolved from reptiles.
I think that's the general premise.
So everyone's like reptilian in this world,
right? But they look human. They look warm-blooded.
Yeah,
like mammals.
Mean, once again, interesting concept. They don't really go anywhere with it, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird concept, and I get what they're trying to do. I get like this is if the dinosaurs, didn't get extinct and they went on to evolve into, humanoid type creatures. But then there's also like still dinosaurs around, like as you said, Yoshi's a part of it, who does look good. But that's when the Mario Brothers escape, and they end up in the desert. But before we get to that, that's when this movie just kind of lulls. Like it's a very
peters out.
It's like that weird where Lena, I think her name is, and she's talking to Daisy, who's in like a dress about like who her mother was and her father, and Yoshi's there and she's being abusive to Yoshi. It's like you forget like that this is a Mario Brothers movie. It's this weird sequence.
That's a good point. You kind of forget you're watching a Mario Brothers movie.
And then like Koopa's trying to order a pizza, and that joke comes back 4 times during the rest of the movie. It's a weird sequence where it's very boring, and I didn't remember any of this sequence, and it hit me. I used to fast forward this when I was a kid. I used to skip through it because it's so boring.
Nothing's going on.
Nothing's happening.
It's like when they get in the trash truck or whatever, right? Like
yeah, they get in the trash truck. Well, see, that's when the movie starts to pick up steam again, when Iggy and Spike conspire with the Mario Brothers, and they go to the nightclub. I kind of like that scene.
They're on their side then, right?
Yeah, they're kind of on their side. It finally picks up steam again when Iggy and Spike pair up with the Mario Brothers, and they go to a nightclub to get back the meteorite chunk.
Nightclub. Something else I did not realize about this movie. I didn't realize that song is from this.
The dinosaur song?
Open the door, get on the floor.
Oh, is it from this?
Everybody do the dinosaur. Well, apparently the song was from Was Not Is, I think was the band's name.
Okay.
And then I guess they took it and they threw George Clinton on it, and I had no idea this was from this movie. Like I think the song is from the movie, or at least it got popular from the movie.
That makes sense. I mean, it's because this universe has to have its own music, so they would need to do.
Yeah,
once again,
you can excuse it because there's music from our world playing in their world.
Right. I forgot about that. I thought they were being clever and that they had their own music. And I'm like, oh, nope, there's many other examples.
Yeah, the vinyls are in there or whatever. Yeah, but who cares?
But this sequence, it's like what I would want the Mario Brothers movie to be, where it's like it's a very weird sequence. There's no, like, they're in these weird clothes, and Mario has to get back the rock from Big Bertha is her name, by seducing her. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a funny scene where they slow dance and he's trying to get the rock back, and then
gives Bob Hoskins a chance to act a little bit.
Yeah, and then he kind of breaks her heart. It's a very sad. You feel sad for this woman almost.
I was a little sad for Big Bertha.
But then she helps them escape. It all works out.
She does.
She helps them with these boots that.
underutilized boots.
Yeah.
They use them like twice.
Yeah.
And they, not only that, they're in instances a lot of times where it's like, I'm like, use the boots.
You could use them. And Ryan, if you're looking at the action figures now, can you tell me what they're wearing on their feet?
They're wearing the boots.
They're wearing the boots.
The boots were clearly a selling point.
Yeah, well, I mean, because Mario Brothers jump. That's something they do.
Yep.
And these boots give them that chance. So, again, we're probably coming up to something that I find to be one of the most frustrating aspects of this movie that, again, as a kid, I didn't realize. They don't get into these costumes that they're Mario Brothers costumes until an hour and 6 minutes into an hour and 44-minute movie.
You're right. You know what? I actually was surprised by that. I'm like, once they actually have them on, I'm like, holy shit, the movie's over.
I mean, and not only that, how do you get so close with the costumes but so wrong?
Yeah, this weird purpley blue on the it's odd.
And not only that, it's not really explained why they get into them.
It's not. You're right.
Like
they're just in it at one point.
After Mario lectures Luigi about always have your tools. You need your tools, and they do something, and then he's like, "Well, how are we going to get out of this?" He's like, "Oh, he has a clever line," and he opens a locker, and they're like, it pays to be a plumber or something." And what? Why are you putting them on now?
It was yeah.
And Luigi's got the backwards baseball cap on. Mario actually has the Mario hat.
He's got the Jeff cap.
They don't have overalls per se, but you just look at this. You're like, if you had just been wearing I know they went from a date to this universe, whatever, but that's the one thing about this movie where it's like, if you're doing Mario Brothers, put them in overalls at some point.
Well, they did eventually.
They're not overalls.
Look, here's the other thing too, man. You got to realize every movie is a commercial endeavor. No one makes a movie to not make some kind of money,
right? Of course.
So, I mean, I could shit on all sorts of movies. A cat's a cash grab, blah, 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 blah. But they still set out to make this movie to make money. Now, you hope they do something artistic with that. But, I mean, once again, they wanted to sell toys. So I imagine there was some marketing. We're going to make them look like this.
Like this cool 90s,
right,
yeah.
And then that's just, we're like, okay, we'll put that in the movie. You put that on the action figure.
Make it on the poster. That's what the movie's marketed on, is those looks.
Right.
And it's very weird.
It is surprising that, that image on the poster, they are in that for, almost none of the movie.
They're in it for, if you do the math, not even at the end, it's about, probably 35 minutes that they're in those costumes.
Jeez, I don't even know if it's that much.
And it's just... It's that scene when they're in the elevator, it's fun. You're like, this is what I signed up for. I wanted to see this. And then they kind of sway the Goombas with the dance scene.
It's pretty stupid, but I get what I get it.
Don't you find it funny though that the Goombas keep dancing after that? It's a problem.
It's funny, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's good. Once again, you can tell this movie suffered from shit getting cut out. I imagine most movies, unless you know exactly how long you want it to be, you're always over.
Yeah,
you're always cutting.
Yeah,
but
yeah, so the end of the movie, we found out that Koopa, his lair is the Twin Towers.
Yeah, what is that? What was going on? I probably started to
at this point
zone out from there. Yeah,
Koopa's lair is the Twin Towers, and one of them is partially damaged. It's very eerie. It's one of those movies that does happen sometimes.
It's weird.
Yeah, you see, have you ever seen this Michael Keaton movie poster? I think it's The Big Squeeze.
Yeah, he's crushing the buildings.
He's in between them, and it's just one of those weird 90s things where.
Here's the thing: I'm a big conspiracy nut, but I'm also a big Occam's razor guy. So the quickest route is the straight line. So very iconic buildings, they're going to get used. I would film them if I was in New York. You film them, but man, it is weird how there's a lot of destruction there.
Yeah, and again, it's this parallel world is all desert and then some Manhattan, which there's something there, but it's just you almost wish if this movie had been more Wizard of Oz-esque, where the land is a fantastical realm where there's nothing resembling.
Yeah, they didn't explore the world enough. They really, like I said, start to get claustrophobic because they keep it on that one stupid set they built. Because they built the set, they're going to use it. Why wouldn't they? It makes sense, but then it does lose something. Like you said, they try to explain it where it's I think Koopa at one point he's I got the city and then nothing but desert.
Yeah,
and it's all right,
So can we talk about how the Mario Brothers? They're going to free the women that have been kidnapped. There's a whole bunch of women that have been kidnapped.
That's the all the Brooklyn girls.
And
well, she's actually from Queens.
Yeah,
she's all right.
But the one looks up and screams, "Hi, Mario!" And Do you know there's guards around? Like, what did you? You know what this whole scene kind of reminded me of a little bit, and then I started thinking about the plot connections. Was Big Trouble in Little China?
Okay.
Where you have like an evil ruler who's trying to find the right bride, and like there's a bunch of women that have been taken and they're being rescued. It was very similar to that. Although in Big Trouble in Little China, there's not a scene where they hop on the back of a mattress and slide down an air vent that's big enough to hold a Goomba.
Which they built.
They had to.
Yeah, they said they did.
And it's one of those scenes where you're like, oh, this is a 90s movie. Is it so 90s? Like,
well, it's just such a shame. I mean, there's so many instances, especially from that era, of just a gutless studio not having the balls to go full crazy.
Yeah.
Like, every once in a while you get Ghostbusters, but 90% of the time you get Super Mario Brothers, where it's half-cocked. They won't go full bore. It's too weird. It's not marketable. Whereas the movie would have been way more fondly remembered if they probably went, let's just go nuts.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, I don't know. Like,
once again, I don't think people knew what they wanted when this came out. They had an idea in their head, but their idea was just theirs.
Yeah.
So the second someone put, no, this is the story, it's like, of course they were going to be upset.
right.
But that's the danger of adapting a video game with no story whatsoever.
Well, again, like I look at my own relationship with this movie as a kid who I did like it. I did enjoy it.
It's a fine kids movie. If you want a kid could watch this movie, I think they'd be entertained.
Well, so I think the thing about this movie is that it did flop. It did get critically panned, but it kind of took on a second life in the early 2000s when internet reviewers started going after it. I mean, I remember,
Easy target, right?
easy target, and just like it's pop culture. Like people remember this, they want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I said this when I announced this podcast that this is our first episode, but I almost wanted to talk about it in the 10 years like since it became like being ridiculed online. Because that was the first time I remembered hearing people didn't like the movie. When Nostalgia Critic did it, and I think a few others did it. That was the first time I was like, oh, people don't like this movie. Because I always did as a kid. And, now looking at it, yeah, it doesn't hold up. There's some parts of it that are really boring.
But once again, you're a grown man. As a 10-year-old you
Sure.
would probably enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's not some unwatchable piece of garbage. Like
No.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't fall into like the so bad it's good category. It's just like,
Once again, you can figure that there's been a studio meddling through, like, seriously, from like, I don't know, after the Brat Pack in the 70s.
Sure. Only before then.
Once their power waned, the studio got back in again and started getting like, nah, you got to do this.
Yeah.
And you get a mediocre, watered down product.
Yeah.
Whereas like everyone wants to make Ghostbusters, but no one has the guts to make Ghostbusters. It's a miracle that got made. What a fucking weird movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the perfect combination of elements. Like
It
that
all came together for that
is
one.
so many
yeah.
things, and that's what this movie needed. Was it needed someone to, I mean, again, Ghostbusters, the first script is like Dan Aykroyd wrote, like it's a universe, a different universe, and there's divisions of Ghostbusters. Like it took someone to like look at that script and say, there's something here that's workable, but we're going to get rid of everything else, hone this idea that makes it work in, and that's what, like, yeah, plumbers that go to a different world. Like, I mean, that's all you really needed. And they just kind of blew it out of proportion.
It's weird too, man. You look at some of the people involved in this, like Roland Joffe produced it. Before this, he had done, I meant to watch these two movies before we did this, but it was just a timing thing. I probably will after this. He did a movie called The Killing Fields.
Okay.
And it's about the killing fields in Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge regime with Pol Pot. Not a happy, but
sure.
It's a serious film.
Yeah.
I think it's, it was probably nominated for the Palme d'Or or something. I don't know. It was very popular at the time, very acclaimed. Then he did The Mission, which I believe was De Niro and Jeremy Irons, which is kind of a forgotten movie. Once again, totally acclaimed about two missionaries that go down to, I want to say South America. I could be wrong. But it's got an Ennio Morricone score. Like, it's, once again, another prestigious film. And he goes, let's produce Super Mario Brothers next. What an odd choice.
Money. I mean, that's what it was. And,
I guess.
And did you hear they were getting drunk behind the scenes? Like, that was a big thing.
Oh, where they were just getting bombed?
Yeah, well,
that doesn't surprise me.
In John Leguizamo's biography, he says that they were just getting shit-faced.
Who, him and Bob Hoskins? Yeah. By the way, Bob Hoskins, I take a minute. If you even remotely liked him in this, you got to check him out in some other stuff. Obviously, my first introduction, a lot of people's, was Roger Rabbit. And it's so funny because, like, you know, if you see that as a kid, years later, you'll right. So I'm Bob Hoskins. What the fuck is this?
Things.
Like, you didn't realize he's so goddamn good in that movie, and you think he is that hard-boiled L.A.
He plays it so well.
He's very good, but
and in this, he just kind of gives up.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
I don't think he didn't know what Mario Brothers was until like after the movie was filmed. I think whatever. It doesn't matter. Few movies you should check him out in because I went and watched a few.
Okay.
One I cannot recommend enough. It's Mona Lisa. It's Neil Jordan, who did Interview with the Vampire and a lot of other stuff. I don't know if it's his first movie, but it's definitely there. Bob Hoskins is a guy. He gets out of jail after like 7 years, low-level flunky, and he goes back to the whatever unit crew he works for. And they give him a job driving around this call girl, like a high-end call girl. It's great. He's great in it. He's buddies with Robbie Coltrane in it. You guys probably know him as fucking Hagrid. Harry.
Yeah.
You're a wizard, Harry. Yeah, he's amazing in it. It's a great movie. It's beautifully shot. Mona Lisa, Bob Hoskins. Go watch it for Mario.
Yeah, I mean, so that's something I'd like to do on this podcast is talk about if you are looking for something good out of this experience, go check this out. And you just gave your pick. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Big Trouble in Little China. I think that does the whole whatever this movie was trying to do better in terms of rescuing a damsel in distress, and it's a silly world. Yeah, I mean, so this movie actually ends on a cliffhanger, basically.
Well, the thing is, they open the door, they get on the floor, but I'm not quite sure they do the dinosaur.
That's left in the air.
Oh, is that is there another cliffhanger?
I'm talking about. I'm talking about the obvious, because there's this weird shot where when Luigi and Mario leave the world, they look, and it's Daisy, Yoshi, and Toad, and they're standing as they leave, and it's so like, oh, we're gonna see these characters again. They're trying to set that up, and I mean,
can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
Did Toad get changed back?
No, they almost kill him. He gets set on fire. Do you remember that?
Is he the one that gets set on fire?
He's the one that gets set on fire.
It's fucked up, dude. They did Toad dirty.
He
didn't change him back. He did seem
so
happy.
sad. It's so sad. Like, he's trying to bring her food.
He gets her steamed veggies.
That's what it is. And he's so happy about them. And those other Goombas light him on fire. It's so sad. There's a couple moments like this. Like that in the Bertha scene where, like, it's like...
Yeah, Bertha's forever stuck in Dino Happen alone.
Stunned because Mario dumped her. And we end the movie there, and then there's this brief scene where Luigi's depressed and Mario's cooking, of course, Italian dinner with his girlfriend, and Daisy busts in, and she's carrying a gun, and you're not going to believe this, and I think Mario says, like, I'm a plumber, I believe everything, and it cut, and, I remember as a kid, I was devastated that I never found out what she wanted them for. You can watch it now and be like, it's silly. I mean, I know, like, Back to the Future did originally that ending, not thinking they would do a sequel.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of earlier. Back to the Future is that same kind of set where they're, like, driving around.
The Hill Valley set.
Well, no. When they're in by his casino, I think.
Oh, yeah. There are some similarities.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just that set. But I think that's just how they were building sets at the time. And for whatever reason, they wanted ones where, like, I could drive a car on the street, where it just makes it look small. But... I think that was it. They wanted to be able to show it was big, and it's a weird ending that, like, they were almost too confident. Well, I think I read something where they weren't trying to do a sequel.
Oh, really?
They were being cheeky.
Yeah,
kind of. I don't know.
Can you imagine, like, it becomes a huge hit and they have to come back to Bob Hoskins and be like, "We're doing it again." I mean, for all the money, you can only, like, have your heart in it so little. Like,
yeah, I mean.
Where do you go? I mean, where would you I mean, there's so...
Job of an actor, I guess. You just got to take crap that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Imagine that.
The funny thing is, too, I don't know how much you read. Like, they make the movie. They're trying to get input from Nintendo. And apparently, like, they're so polite. They were just like, yeah, you made the movie. Like, it wasn't... They couldn't get anything out of them. Like, is it good? Do you like it? And they're just like, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know what to say. Yeah, and I mean, if you... read up on it, like it put them off signing on the film rights to any of their properties since, and I mean, you look at.
Oh my God! Now you say that, I think Detective Pikachu was
that was the only one.
Oh wow,
that opened the doors. Yeah, Detective Pikachu is the first Nintendo movie in I don't know how long.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that.
And it opened the doors back up, and they are licensed, like you said, Imagine, is that what it's called? Whatever the animated studio is that does the Despicable Me.
Okay.
Illumination, I think that's it.
All right.
They purchased the rights. Universal is building a Nintendo theme park. That's going to be a new extension of their theme park. So we're going to see a lot of Nintendo films in the next couple of years.
Whoopee.
And they're going to be...
They're going to be trash, I can tell you right now.
Well,
you ain't going to be happy, people. If you like
and-
Nintendo stuff, you ain't going to like this.
Well, I think that about covers it on Super Mario Brothers. Do you have anything you want to add on it? I mean, it was your first time seeing it.
Yeah. No, I don't know. You know, as we do more of these, I think, it's not like we've closed the book on it.
No.
If something happens and I want to, we bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, my outlook with it is it's not a movie that you can watch to a group of friends and kind of pick apart. It's not that bad.
It depends how much,
Yeah, what's involved in
smoking,
that.
Yeah.
I like you and I couldn't have sat around. There would have been anything to pick. Like I just felt it was like, it's all right.
Yeah.
I think anything that's been said about it has been said. I think it's an interesting movie. I think it's worth checking out, but fast forward through those really slow parts.
I just do not fast forward through anything in a movie. Sit and be bored. If you're bored, be bored.
Well, you're going to be bored in
this
movie.
It's good for you.
Yeah, so I guess we're not really going to rate things.
Nah.
We haven't talked about it, but we're just going to say.
Fine. You got a kid. You want to keep him occupied for an hour and a half. Pop on Super Mario Brothers. Otherwise,
Yeah, I mean, if you do, let us know what they think of it. I would love to hear what kids would think of this movie today. I bet they would love it because it's.
I don't see why. Once again, they're not exposed to this stuff anymore. You had that weird dark element in a lot of these movies.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's gone now. I don't watch kids movies, so I can't say really. But
yeah. Well, check it out, and if you
not as bad as they say.
It is not as bad as they say. It's a great way to put it. Like Ryan said, the cartoon that comes out will probably be worse, and we'll cover that someday.
Sure.
So yes, thank you for listening to this first episode. We are looking forward to talking about more.
Yeah, and guys, bear with us. This episode might be a little choppy. We're working out some technical stuff. We will get more polished as we go on.
Yeah, we're primarily film guys, if you could say that much.
Yeah, I'm not on the technical end personally.
Yeah, so we're learning, and we want to get obviously better at this, and we want to do it justice and talk about the movies that you grew up with and do them justice. So we do have the website open. You've been sending in some great suggestions, and we can't wait to talk about them. And like I said in the beginning, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hatsoffentertainment.
Yes, donate. Because we'll keep doing this. We'll do more shows. The more you guys donate, the more you get involved. We'll do more. We'll take your suggestions on things. We'll do special episodes where we have a lot of things up in the air. We could do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
we're not going to limit ourselves to talking about just these kind of movies. We want to go off in all different directions and talk about not only movies, entertainers, shows, things you grew up with, modern film. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and we want to use this, as a platform to do that. So find us on Twitter and Patreon and drop us a line. Let us know.
What's the Twitter?
It's Almost C Classics. I couldn't get the full.
At Almost C Classics.
At Almost C Classics.
From there, you can go both our handles.
They're on there.
Just our names.
Yeah, you can tell us what we did wrong, what you hated about us.
Please.
I'm sure you will.
Happy to hear criticisms.
If I mispronounce words, I will hear about it there. So let me know.
All right, cool. I can't wait. Guys, listen. Engage us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Almost Cult Classics.
And that's a wrap on the very first episode of Almost Cult Classics, the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I did want to remind everyone that you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hatsoffentertainment, Twitter at AlmostCClassics, as well as almostcultclassics.com, where you can send a recommendation our way. Next time on Almost Cult Classics, the podcast, we will be discussing the 1980 film Popeye. So please give that film a watch in time for our next episode. And if you have any notes or anything you'd like to mention about that, please send us a note on almostcultclassics.com, on Twitter, or on Patreon, and maybe we will bring it up during the show. Thanks again, and we can't wait to see you next time.